Nothing contagious, I promise.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Well, welcome to the December 21st, 2021 session of TangerineSDR and Hamsa technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week, I haven't done a huge amount. Mostly my wife's had me busy, and it'll be the people in our house, and we are having a sister and brother-in-law come over who are also retired, so we're going to try to stay pretty safe. Anyway, that's it for me. Okay. Next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Dave. Things are going fine here. I made it back from AGU last week, and I think things were well received there. I gave a talk, Dev gave a poster. Let's see, Joe, he on here, and Jules, who I don't see on here, they both gave great posters. Veronica gave a talk, Steve Serwin gave a talk. So we were very well represented at the Hamsa Workshop, or I'm sorry, at the AGU meeting. I saw one of the NASA officials who is funding some of our other grants and connected me with the Marshall Space Flight Center people, and he was very encouraging. So I think that's all very good. And I think I'm excited to hear what Jonathan has to say about the VLF receiver update. So I think it's streaming now. So W2NAF back to net.
Okay.
Oh, before I go,
yes.
I do have to get the annual report in by the end of the year. And so I'll be updating the report I gave last year. I think what I'll do, last year I submitted all of these technical drawings that I collected from Dave Witten and Tom McDermott and Scotty and John Ackerman. I might send those out to you again and see if there's anything there that needs to be updated. So I'll hopefully be emailing you shortly. Back to net.
Okay, next on the list is David, N1HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. And glad, a lot of good stuff made it to AGU. Our Viper sounding rocket also, I think, had some good presentations attached to it. Also a radio research project. John Bonnell and a number of other people, I think, were presenting. And my big thing this week wasn't radio related, but it was more solstice related. Our Christmas Revels had our production week. And I don't know if people know about that, but it's something that started in Boston, and then we were the second ones up here in New Hampshire and Vermont. And it's been going for quite some time, 40 some odd years, I think. Anyway, as was presented by our director, we were probably the coldest Christmas Revels ever, because we were performing outdoors in a city park rather than indoors as we're used to, with a mind towards being more benign toward the COVID situation. So we've been practicing outdoors since October, and it started out at 50 degrees Friday afternoon and was down in the 20s by last evening, if not a little bit below. And we got 8 inches of snow in the interim. So it was an interesting experience, but now I get to go back to radios. Back to net.
Fine business. And next on the list is David Witten, KD0EAG. Go ahead, David.
Hello. Not a whole lot here. Had some minor distractions health-wise, but nothing of consequence. But so I haven't accomplished much. That's about it for me.
Okay. Next on the list is Bill in 8ET. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I had grandkids here for the weekend, so we had major distractions, and we're just now recovering. So I haven't gotten anything done either. Back to that.
Okay, fine business. And next on the list is Dan in for XWE. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Dave, and good evening, everybody. Spent last week recovering from a Pfizer COVID booster shot. It really got the best of me. So I was down for about 5 or 6 days, believe it or not. Anyway, other than that, I did make about 10 RIDI contacts last week with FL Digi, of all things, and it really worked well. I was absolutely amazed.
Very
so good. Anyway, that's about it from here.
Okay. Next on the list, we have David Waugh, KE8QEP. Go ahead, David.
Hello, everyone. I'm still without a magnetometer. Scotty may be able to hook me up with a replacement board. I think at the last meeting, Gary suggested I use a fake rock to cover the outlet head as opposed to having it below grade. And I think that may be the best option because I'm not going to get rid of the dog who would just chew anything above grade. Part of me wants to make the subterranean thing work. And maybe when the boards become readily available, I can experiment with that, but I don't want to continue trashing ham-side magnetometer boards because I'm stubborn. So I think the fake rock, or I tried to see if you could get a yard Darluck or something that you could put over, but they oddly don't exist. That may be a new niche. But that's it. Back to net.
Fine business. I'd go for the Darling.
Garden Santa.
And let's see, what's next is, well, Scotty, do you want to go next?
Sure. Not much going on with the holidays here, but David, I will get you out of board this week so you can have something probably before Christmas. That's it. Back to you.
Okay. And next on the list is David Woodward, and I assume a new fellow. David, go ahead.
My goodness, I didn't really expect to be on the net. I'm really just on the beginning phase. I've got fortunate enough to have some property that's going to have the solar eclipse go on the 2023 and 24. And so I'm trying to get ideas of how to set up a good station that would be, scientific enough to generate good data. There's lots of possibilities, but my degree is ancient and it was in geology, so it has not a whole lot to do with radios. I'm a general class radio operator, but that too. There is at such a deep pool. So I'm just kind of hanging out here trying to listen to y'all. I'm not going to interject anything. So I appreciate y'all sharing your information with me. And with that, I'm going to let y'all go. KE5DPZ, back to net.
Okay. Well, with a 5.
I should point out what you're the 5th, David, but you're not the only geologist. I'm also a geologist. I'm not practicing, but it's okay.
And David Woodward.
Yes, sir.
I was a professor of forestry, so you never know.
I spent more time doing plumbing, and I never really used my geology degree. I spent more time doing construction, and so I have quite a few skill sets that aren't in the academic field.
Yes.
And today I've been working on a fan dipole, and just playing around with it has been too long since I've held a soldering iron in my hand, and it's just kind of another learning experience. But I don't want to take up a whole lot of time on the net because I don't have any words of wisdom to share.
One question. Do you still live in 5 land? your
I'm
call
sorry,
sign,
say again.
Your call signs.
Yes,
5.
I'm still in Texas, K5
Okay.
DPD.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm in Gillespie County, and it just so happens that on the 2023 crossing, I'm right on the very edge of the lunar eclipse, and so I can shoot back towards my home country of Big Bend, because I know they have a really good system set up over there. So I'll be able to shoot, completely across the dark path, and then for the 2024, my QTH is less than like a half a mile from the center of the occultation. And so if I can set up some sort of a good whisper net, because I would like to have multiple receivers, hooked up to like a Raspberry Pi network, and have, a single clock like what y'all have been talking about with the Tangerine, and because there's so much good data that could be utilized there. But anyway, like I said, I was going to take up any of your time because I don't have enough credentials to even rank among you. So
we've encountered a surprising amount of plumbing questions in this group. Many more than we ever anticipated.
Plumbing and antennas actually go very well together.
Yes.
And magnetometers.
And well, thank you for being interested, and you will enjoy when I was within the 2017 eclipse. It went right over us, and so it was an interesting experience. But I'm sure we can help you with getting set up, and maybe Nathaniel has some more suggestions at some time. Let's go through the rest of the list. And next we have James, KG4 DSG. Go ahead, James.
Good evening, Dave and the group. Just trying out a new camera here. We got it for some family functions, and initial report was it was working. Other than that, I don't have much to add. Just checking in as usual. That back to the net.
Well, I can report that it's much clearer than your old camera.
Well, it's supposed to be 4K, so.
Yes. Next on the list is Gary, AF8A. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to report here that I finally got a low band antenna up outside at the house. I've got a 20-meter quarter wave vertical, so at least I can receive. Made about 100 QSOs on CW this weekend, so I feel like a real ham again. So when the time comes, at least I'll have a good signal, both transmitting and receiving. Back to the net.
Okay. Next on the list is Joe, W7LUX. Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, everybody. And before I forget, very, very best of season's greetings to all. There was a very good outcome to the poster paper, and that is Larry, K4LED, sent me email, said, how do I get a grape receiver going? And so sent him some instructions and told him to see what parts were missing and are hard to get, and I'd do my best to fill them in for him. I've got a couple of spares here, so perhaps I can help out with that. Other than that, just staying extremely busy with the various electronics projects. Back to you, Dave.
Very good. And next on the list is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I have some really good news to report. I've been pretty busy all week playing around with the VLF-SDR. I was going through and fixing some more issues with the startup script. I now record 96 kHz sample data unhum filtered, 32K down sample data filtered with the hum removed. I've been going through the event detector. So far, it's only detected motors starting up. Motors have a distinctive rising tone. So it would detect if a motor turns on, could be from a blower motor or garage door or something like that. I've been getting good signal from NAA and other VLF transmitters. And I recently contacted Paul Nicholson. He runs a network of VLF receivers. He's also the author of VLF for its tools and was a tremendous asset to me in getting this up and running. I am now currently streaming to his server. And that link, you could actually listen in to my stream from his server. I believe it runs on an AWS. I posted the link in the chat. The good thing about his server is that it'll record 20 days worth of data. It also runs an event detector, so it'll detect any whistlers or any chorus. And the really cool thing is that he also takes data, statistical data from all those whistlers, and he compiles histograms showing you diurnal variation and of whistler counts, and also annual whistler counts. It's interesting that there are two receivers, one in Forest, Virginia, and one in South Carolina. Both report a higher incidence of whistlers in the spring months, typically around April. And that's really interesting. So it'll record all my whistler events, and it'll compile histograms of whistlers. So I'm really excited about that. And he also copies the stream to an IceCast server for everybody to listen. Again, that link is posted in the chat. And lastly, what he's going to do is he's going to monitor the 8.7 kHz and the 5.1 kHz VLF amateur bands and add that to his live spectrogram that he has running. So this allows him another receiver in the US with the ability to detect amateur signals. I also was able to detect a very faint amateur signal in the 8.7 or the 8.270 kHz band. It was from a VLF beacon, Victor Oscar 1, November America, that's really good news for this receiver, is that that I could do weak signal detection. One quick thing, there was a VLF balloon that launched this weekend from Poland. It was transmitting on 14.2 kilohertz with whisper encoding. Unfortunately, there were no signal reports. I still have to go through my data to see if I could find a carrier, but many people in Europe did not report anything. That's all I have. Back to the net.
Well, fine business, Jonathan. And next on the list is Michael, AA8K. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, thank you, Dave. Season's greetings to everyone. Back to you, Dave.
You look very festive in your red shirt. We've already called on Scotty, so next on the list is Tom, N5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, good evening, Dave, and everybody in the group. And best holiday wishes to everyone here. I have not worked on Tangerine in a couple of weeks. designed and installed an audio system for a big area. And so I guess you could say I've been working on BLF, except with longitudinal waves instead of transverse waves. So back to the group.
Well, fine business, Tom. So unless somebody else snuck in there, I think that's everyone on the list. So we will go to open discussion.
Yeah, for those of
Scotty.
you going to Hamcation, Nathaniel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Want to put in a plug for Hamcation.
Yes, you should do that.
We're going to have a whole day long of forums between ORI and open source stuff and Tangerine and Digital Voice. So look for that. We're trying to get the schedule together so that they can update their website, because it's amazingly how close to the end of the year, first week in February is. And so it's like they're getting kind of panicked and want to get all the info in. So we're going to have that submitted tomorrow. And so look for an update, and hopefully they'll get Tucson spelled properly this time.
I have to. It looks like it's spelled Tucson, right?
Yeah, it's Tucson, but they insist on spelling it Tuscon. So Tucson.
Yeah. I always have to tell myself Tucson as I'm writing it down.
Tucson, yeah.
We
have jokes about that pronunciation, you know. Well, and we have Nogales, which some people pronounce as Nogles.
Wow.
So that's the first weekend in February in Florida.
That's in person.
That's in person this year.
Yeah. I'm going to
cancel it at the last minute, but I don't think so.
I will miss that. Got classes and things, but.
So how about a plug for Hamsa Workshop?
How's
it
coming? The Hamsa Workshop is coming along well. We actually have the website set up to accept abstracts. So if you go to hamsa.org right now, you will see a nice big banner that announces the workshop, which I can, but there it is right there. Hamsa Workshop. So the weather connection. And you can now submit an abstract to it. Just click the big blue button. We have the information on where it's going to be held. I've got one keynote, one invited speaker announced already. So Dr. Chen Peng Yang from the University of Toronto, he's going to talk about the ham radio and the discovery of the ionosphere. He wrote the book Probing the Sky with Radio Waves. I think hopefully tomorrow I will add another invited speaker onto here. One of the neat things that has come from us shifting from Scranton to Huntsville is that we have more of a connection with NASA now, since we're so close to NASA Marshall Space Flight Center. And they've just been wonderful, the NASA Marshall people. So they've really helped us get this organized, and they're actually part of this local organizing committee now. So we actually have real NASA people participating in the workshop. So I think that's really exciting. Let's see.
Can we make reservations yet, Nathaniel?
That should be coming soon. The University of Scranton still reviewing the contract for the Marriott Hotel. So as soon as that's available, I will do that. This week, I should have out a press release about at least having abstracts open. And then we'll do another one for when registration's open. Registration will probably open up, soon after the new year, because we have to finish getting those contracts in place with the university. And I just don't see that happening before Christmas. I don't know, but we'll see. But for now, you can certainly submit abstracts. So I encourage you to at least think about submitting an abstract. They are due February 1st. And I think that's about it for now.
All right.
So I wanted to bring up something if you're done with this stuff.
Yeah, I just had one other question for Scotty. How are when do you think we'll see magnetometer boards in the Tapper store?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I've kind of been coasting here for a little bit, but I got to get back on that because I've been kind of delayed because of the second kit. You know, the idea is it takes two kits, one with the boards and all the electronics, but then one with all the mechanical stuff in it. But I guess we could go ahead and provide the boards without the kits. I mean, they don't necessarily have to go together.
Yeah, I think we should do that because at AGU, I had a sufficient number of people ask me, where can I get one of these?
Okay.
And
so do you think 500 is too optimistic? That's 250 sets of boards.
I don't think that's too optimistic.
Okay.
You know, I think there's actually a lot of so for instance, people from Aurora Source, there's a guy who's developing a suitcase sort of all sky imager, and he's like, I want to put a magnetometer in here, and he had the picture of the RM3100, you know, right on his slide. He's like, I haven't gotten around to designing the board to put it on here yet, but he had this really nice like Pelican case suitcase with a Raspberry Pi in it, driving his camera. I'm like, have I got the board for you? All you have to do.
So this actually is good because this is something that I could put together over the holidays when everybody else is off on vacation. I can't get to really do a whole lot and get that going. So yeah, okay.
And I think, Scotty, I can trash a bunch of them. So I
we need a couple hundred just for you. We need a couple hundred.
Yeah, I might need a couple hundred or something like that.
Well, how many does it take before you will grade your yard? We'll keep under that limit so that you won't grade your yard and you'll still keep buying magnetometers.
Well, I think we have to regrade the yard because of the dogs and muddy feet.
So,
and my wife is more concerned about muddy feet than the magnetometer.
Well, you know you're in trouble when the dog comes in carrying the magnetometer in his mouth and dug it up and pulled it out of the ground. Yeah, okay.
So there was a lot of interest.
Because I had talked to the Tapper board earlier, and I think this is something that we can do within the Tapper Tapper group. We have enough funds to do it.
Okay.
So, especially if you see a lot of interest, that would, I mean, typically what happens is when you first introduce it, you have a lot of sales.
Right.
And you sell a whole bunch of boards, and then it kind of tapers off, and then they're kind of, 5 or 10 a month kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's okay because the idea is the initial surge pays for most of the cost of building the run, and then the what's left over, the inheritance, is in stock parts.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I think that's reasonable.
And the other thing is that it's not much of a big investment for Tapper because the magnetometers, the RM3100s themselves, we can buy them in small quantities.
Yeah.
Because we don't get a really big discount on those. So if we were to, the problem is if we wanted to buy 250 of those, that board costs more than the base board. So then you're end up more than doubling the cost of the project by having those in stock, but there's no point in stocking those unless they're going to become unobtainium kind of things like other things.
Right.
So we
never know.
So we need to get with the people with the contacts that Dave Whitten has given me and let them know that here's the progression of what we're going to want. So maybe 50 a month for the first 6 months of 2022.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
But people were really noticing that, this thing seems to have the performance of something that's, at least 500 or thousands of dollars. As it's not quite as good performance, but it's good.
Scotty, did you come to any decision about modifying the design of the board?
I think that you and Jules talked me out of it.
Okay.
Because I don't think there's enough of a benefit there to put the delay in.
If you really, really wanted to do something, if you could just put five holes that were the I squared C, not the differential, but the regular I squared C, just 4 pins well, ground, 3.3 volts.
Yeah.
5 volts, and then SCL and SDA.
What I'm really trying to avoid is respinning the board at all.
Okay, well, that's fine too.
But the thing is, you can get those 4 signals right off of the Raspberry Pi header, right? And they're already got pull-ups on them and everything. So
yeah, I guess so. You're right. Well,
if we use the small header, the short pin header, and that kind of takes care of that problem of, it eliminates the ability to do that.
No problem. No, if someone wants it, it's bad enough it's there. That's what I was concerned about.
Because all I do is I take those 4 pins and I route them to a quick connector, right? That's what you were suggesting.
Well, yeah, or even just make them available, period. Somebody you can buy little quick wires or things like that are, you just cut one in half and you've got.
What about just 4 10th-inch center pins?
That was kind of what I was saying. If you didn't do anything else, but you were going to do something, 4, I would say 5, 1 for the 5 volt also, because this would be at the remote end.
So you want 5 volts, 3 volts, ground, SDA and SCL, or you don't need 3 volts?
I'd put 5 and 3 volts. Yeah, because somebody might need the 5 for something.
Yeah.
But don't if it's going to take time, don't.
If it's going to be on the remote end that they need it, then that 40 pin connector is empty. So you can put pins, you can solder pins right into there and do whatever you want.
Then don't change anything.
Okay. I like that even better.
I agree with that. So.
Yeah, I would much prefer to see it move forward and get some boards available to people.
Yeah. Because the thing is that I've already got the quotations, assuming that they're still good, for assembly, and it's going to be assembled in the USA here, right here in Tempe, and it's affordable to do that. You might save a few dollars going offshore, but the nightmare of the delays and all that are not worth it. No. Not for, if it's going to be a data engine, it's going to be half the price. Okay. But, if you're going to save $1 or $2, it's not worth it. Sure. And we made a lot of changes to make everything surface mount. Yeah. So that resulted in a very inexpensive build, even domestic build. So I think we can proceed with that. That would be a good thing. So maybe Nathaniel and Dave will ask for some help in building the web page for Tapper, because I want to have a little more elaborate page with a lot of links to the Hamsa group and say, hey, you should buy this because look at how great the performance is compared to these other commercial ones. It's really close. It only costs $100. You should buy this one. And
I think part of the key too, though, is linking the sale of the boards to what is already available on the Hamsa website about building the tube and all that stuff. Jules has a lot of great information there already. So
right, so we want to have those links there. So because there's not going to be anything initially to build that end of the unit. So, and I think Hillman's article, and I don't. Does Jules have an article also on? Because I know Hillman has kind of a picture on how to build the thing, but it's a little bit. I don't want to say sketchy, but it's one way to do it, but I'm not sure it's the way that is the best way.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's look at it now. See what it might need. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
If it needs a bill of materials or something like that, that's not that hard to do.
So I'm really thinking of like a user's manual for the board. They have a picture of the board with arrows to every connector and every jumper. It says what it does and a schematic and everything, all the info. But that's really on the near end. That's not really like this article right here.
Hillman's page is really nice.
Is that what we're looking at now?
Yeah, but there are things about making it work the way we're using it right now or the way we would expect to use it in the near future that aren't there, especially about software and stuff.
Yes.
But that's easy to
we can embellish.
And I have no problem giving you access to this page and working with Hillman and
Sure.
And then here we're now directly linking to your GitHub page for the software.
Uh-huh.
And I know
that's the rest of the information.
Yeah.
Unless we make changes to the process.
Right. Yeah, I know I owe you some comments on some of these addresses are different in real life with the new boards, but
but those are it describes the boards the way I built them.
Right. I don't think this
we don't want to use it anymore, I don't think.
No, those were some that Jules had suggested. Right. And Dave and I tried them for quite a while, but then decided not to use them.
Yeah, like I don't even think it exists in the software anymore. So I think you have to omit that from the command.
So do you think this right here is sufficient for all of the documentation needed for the software, or do we have to have a quick start guide or
I think you'll need a quick start guide for most people.
Pardon me?
I think you will need a quick start guide for most people.
Dave, I went and I wish you would put the .u back in there because that did help with timing. And I'm still running the older version because the .u was or -u was
useful. The -u do that? What option is that?
I don't remember what it did.
I don't think on the initial version. I don't think you had that option.
It's set to delay for
like a loop or something.
Yeah, it allowed you to adjust the timing to make it closer to 1 second.
The longer I worked on it, the more options there got to be, some of which I started to suspect were undoing each other or at odds with each other. And
well, there's a way to make it so complicated that it's going to be daunting.
Right. Right. And so anything I took out is just commented out in the code, I believe. So I can put it back easy enough.
Dave, the other thing is we have the comments to the Linode instance. When you get several hundred people wanting to send data, do we want to do that?
I don't know what the plan is going forward. We're getting a few more, slowly adding people, but not very many up there. Frankly, I don't think there's a big problem, but we may need to stagger the rsync times a little bit so they're not all trying to rsync simultaneously. Yeah, I need to keep an eye on how much disk space I've got up there. But at some point, somebody's going to have to make some decisions about what we really want to do with the data.
It's eventually supposed to go to University of Alabama.
Right.
That may be an impetus for Bill to
get
that up and running on his site once he figures out how he's going to do it.
Yeah, but I doubt that'll be without, a few traumatic moments. But if experience is any indicator.
One more comment on the menus. When you get so many, you might consider having like an expert mode and a beginner mode, if that's not too hard.
Yeah.
To turn off a lot of the less used options so it doesn't confuse people.
Yeah. That's possible.
I know it can end up growing totally out of control if you just let.
Well, there's
have their own.
There's another entire code base, but it was starting to get complicated too.
And I was going to say, Dave, you were working on a different version. Because I think the 1 second timing is important, even if it's not meaningful as far as the actual data collection, but for the end user, it is very useful to have a consistent number of data points.
Yeah, well, the other version of the program uses a different mechanism for timing the collection loop altogether. So it's intended to be more deterministic, but still not very. It's not just a loop. It's timer driven, or it's driven. Yeah, it's driven on. I can't even tell you right now.
But it's triggered by something other than just the loop.
Yeah, right. It's triggered by something besides just how long all the individual actions take, add up to.
And that's what I think it was, the dot or dash U and dash A or the dash O, or I can't remember what they all did. But you could tweak those to get it closer to 1 second. But from a data processing standpoint, you end up with irregular numbers of points, which can be dealt with, but it becomes more complex.
Yeah,
and the grape had the same issue, or has.
I got the impression that Jules didn't want me to do it anymore, so I took it out. But I honestly get sooner or later I get confused, and sooner these days more often than later. So it's probably time to get back on that and clean up some of those bits.
So trying to sit back and listen to this from a distance, it almost sounds like we'd like to put a stake in the ground when you kind of want to announce this whole thing, which would kind of be sensible at the Hamsa conference, and then kind of work backwards. When do we need to have the software done? When does Tapper need to have the boards in stock? When does Scotty need to send the files of the build house? That sort of thing. Does that make sense? Because if we're going to move forward, this could drag out and we might miss something.
That makes good sense to me.
Yeah. If we could have this ready for the Hamsa workshop, that would be ideal. That'd be awesome. I
can at least show it off at Hamcation. You may not have them available that early, but Hamsa's
tell them coming in March.
Yeah, and Hamsa is what, about 5 weeks after Hamcation?
March 18th.
So
the day after St. Patrick's Day.
About 6 weeks then. Yeah.
So I would like to interject a question here. This weekend, there was some solar activity that changed the auroral pattern. And I did pick up a difference in number of total contacts in my whisper this weekend. It dropped my whisper contacts by about 200 unique calls over the weekend, mostly Europe and Australia, but now it's back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if anybody else was paying attention to that or not.
Yeah, the solar flux did shoot up quite a bit this weekend, especially over last week. It went way up over where it's been.
Right.
I guess there are probably like two things that are happening. If you have one is in the auroral zone, you could get more absorption. So you're going to have so any of your like transpolar paths might get absorbed. And the other thing that could happen is as KP goes up, you end up you go through a negative phase of the storm where the atmosphere becomes less dense at other latitudes, and then the maximum usable frequency drops.
Yeah, if you looked at the NOAA space enthusiast page, it shows a map where you have the whole world, but it's laid out in a flat situation. And the two flashes, one was over the South Atlantic, and one, the bottom one, it's called the deabsorption.
Oh, DRAP, yeah.
Yeah, one was over Australia and the other one was over the South Atlantic, the two big bright spots in that deabsorption map. So it was a very interesting thing to watch, and then actually see it change contacts. And I'm running only at 0.2 of a watt transmit and receive, but
Yeah.
multi-band. And I still think it's pretty good that I can get a signal from Australia and into South Africa or Antarctica on 0.2 of a watt.
That
So
is.
Dave, what was the timing that you were seeing this?
There was one flash late Friday my time, and the other flash was midday Saturday my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was a solar flare.
Yes.
Earlier today.
But I looked at my numbers today, and they were back to what I expect.
Yeah.
I get about 600 unique contacts in a 24-hour period.
Also, I'm noticing a note that Comet Leonard has just increased brightness tremendously. It was apparently naked eye today, magnitude 3 or so. I haven't spotted it except in binoculars like last week.
Yeah.
But it's right next to Venus. It was cloudy here, unfortunately, tonight.
But I just thought I'd mention that because it's something space weather stuff that I noticed this weekend.
Oh, it does say, yeah, there was the G1 class geomagnetic storm, the 19th. Surprise geomagnetic storm. Still doesn't coincide with what you're talking about. I think you're saying earlier.
Yeah, well, and then we had another storm a while back that JB was talking about, and I found no change in my number of contacts or where they were.
There was there was some activity shown on the SID plots for the VLF transmitters. Peter Newton in 5 Scotland showed a decrease in propagation. Looks like around 11:30 UT. He was monitoring DHO, DCF, and FUE, all European VLF transmitters, and there was a decrease in signal strength.
That would have been the solar flare. That was at 11:36 UT.
Yep. I might have seen it on mine too. I need to check my data. You know, the good thing about these sorts of solar storms is they as the storm kind of subsides, more ducts form for whistlers. So you tend to see an increase in whistlers as a solar storm subsides or after it's over. So that's another cool thing to watch. The unfortunate thing is the geomagnetic conjugate for where the antenna is right now is kind of in between the tip of South America and Antarctica. And according to the Worldwide Lightning Location Network, that is that's not an area with intense lightning, so Whistler events are probably going to be pretty rare. So that's why it's good to have an automated system to capture that. And I kind of want to see if there's any sort of enhancement in ducts after a storm.
Does that mean, Jonathan, I need to move to a place that has a better conjugate point?
Well, Paul has a bunch of receivers that are in places in Europe that get whistlers just about daily. So there's still there's plenty of whistlers coming in. But I'm actually very curious about this area here, northeastern PA, what the occurrence of whistlers is going to be. So that's another reason why that I wanted to have it streamed to Paul's server, because he has scripts and everything to capture all this data.
Yeah, that's good. And I will, Jonathan, I will try this week, either this week or next week, as soon as I get time, to send you an email and get you set up with the Hamsa website so you can start building out a web page for the VLF receiver.
Okay, sounds good. I will start collecting content for it and pictures and everything else. Should I just give a basic overview of the system, or would you like me to do sub pages with like more details of the receiver?
I'd say do sub pages. I'd say go all out. So what I'm thinking is, under personal space weather station, we can have another link here that says, VLF receiver, and then you can just build it out however you want. So just like, the magnetometer project, Yeoman has all of this stuff, and then we link to his manual and to Dave Witten's manual. You can build it out as you see fit.
Oh, geez. Okay. That'll be great. What I'll do is I will use this system right here. Everything that we set up, that's going to be the science case for the Whistler Catcher module for the TangerineSDR. And that'll kind of get the wheels going for, people to see, this is how it's set up. If you want to do it, this is how you do it. And then when the board is ready and working, whenever that is, then they could kind of jump right in. And the box that I built, they won't need it. They would just need the TangerineSDR. And so yeah, I will set up the website that way. Kind of like how you have the magnetometer set up that way.
That's great. And yeah, things that if there are things that you think would be good to include that we haven't, just put on what you think is needed.
Okay.
I'm actually creating an account for you on the page right now.
Oh, perfect. I think to start off, I think I'll do a signals gallery and some samples.
I think that's a great idea.
That's going to get people kind of interested. That's what got me interested in the first place. So I'll just start with a signals gallery and basic background and just kind of go into everything. And it'll be nice. It'll be a really good start, and it'll get more people into VLF.
Yeah, I like that.
is the VLF receiver only for the Tangerine, or is it?
No, actually, what I have set up now is a VLF receiver with a Raspberry Pi and a sound card. The signal from the VLF receiver goes into the sound card, and the Raspberry Pi runs software that captures from the sound card and does signal analysis, recording all different sorts of functions. And the board for the TangerineSDR, that's going to replace the Raspberry Pi. See, because what I had to do was I had to have a separate GPS receiver, a sound card, and I had to set up all the software. And it could get pretty daunting for someone who's not very technical, especially who doesn't have a background in VLF. So this board is designed to be a high quality capture system that will take the place of the Raspberry Pi or a regular computer with a sound card. So it'll automatically timestamp the data. It'll be very high sample rate, and it'll be ready to go. It'll be a VLF DAC ready to go for capture of VLF signals.
Yeah, think of the Raspberry Pi version as just a different board to complement the HF version of the RF card. Okay, but since it goes on a Raspberry Pi header, you'll be able to have an RF module and a VLF module on the same Tangerine.
So currently, this isn't in a state where I can build it and then drown it and trash it and not understand it. And I mean, is this something I could implement now?
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's not in a neat, organized guide or tutorial, but that's kind of the point of the website.
I mean, this might actually be a good thing because Jonathan, you write the website, and then David could test out your writing.
Yeah, I mean, if I can build it, anyone can. But no, I'd give it a try. I mean,
but not everyone could drown it.
Well,
it was pretty wet at this installation.
Yes, it was.
I live in a town called Springbrook. They call it Springbrook for a reason.
Oh, a spring and a brook, huh?
Yeah.
Well, but Jonathan, if there are any plans to make this, if you send me an email, and if it's something I think I can do, I'll give it a try.
Well, the VLF receiver is actually very simple to build. I don't know if you're comfortable with soldering a fairly simple circuit on a perf board or on Manhattan construction.
Oh, I can do Manhattan, and I managed to solder the SMAs on the grape, so I think I can do Manhattan style or perf board or.
Okay, I mean, because and there was some engineering involved in this because I made a thin little board that fit inside that PVC pipe, and that's the right there, and that's the actual VLF preamp. So that connects to the antenna element inside, which it's all very simple to actually build. There's nothing to it. It's just it needs needs some attention to detail, but it's probably not out of your realm of possibility.
Well, then maybe I can help write the instructions if I can muddle through it. And if nothing else, I will be able to point out areas other people might have issues.
Okay.
And I can make a fool of myself.
Well, I mean, the thing is, another important thing. Now, the VLF observatory site is a rural area and does not contain a lot of power lines. Everything is kind of spread out. Is your area a suburban area or a rural area?
It's a suburban area with lots of 60 hertz interference.
Okay. Well, see, the only caveat to this is that you want your 60 hertz interference not to overload and clip at the sound card. Also at the stages of the receiver, which is there's only one.
Well, but then I can demonstrate the upper limit of where you should install it.
Okay, because when I was testing the system here at my house, there was a huge transmission tower, three-phase tower, about maybe 200 feet away, and there was a lot of interference from it. There was also overhead power lines that were right underneath the antenna, and that kind of overloaded the antenna with a lot of filth. And the filter doesn't you know, the more stuff, the stronger the harmonics, the more difficult it is to actually filter. And if you can't filter that well, then you're going to overpower any whistlers or chorus that might come in.
Well, but if this is going to be something that people are going to add to their tangerines, then we need to know the limits to where people can or can't install it. So
yeah,
even if my installation was a total failure, which, you know, my magnetometer may be too, it's still useful data as to whether or not you're in an appropriate location.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, even where I was, if I implemented some more custom filtering and played around with the filtering, I probably could have got it reasonable enough where I could detect something. So it's this hasn't really largely been tried. Most of the people that are in the VLF community try to do their observations in rural areas, but also some of them in, you know, regular suburbs. So I think that it would be a really good exercise, and you know, you could give it a try. And even if it doesn't work all that well, you know, you could still monitor other signals too. You could still monitor the SAQ. You could still monitor VLF transmitters, and it could also be possible to do weak signal detection as well, depending on the conditions. Because weak signal detection, that involves very narrow bands. So you might be able to get some amateur signals over VLF as well, even though that your hum levels are high. So yeah, I'll work on this, and you could follow along and let me know, and I can make changes. You know, and we could just go from there. And that's kind of what I do at my regular job is that I write a lot of documentation that people have to follow. So this is something that I could probably do. You would just have to give me feedback.
So Jonathan, I just sent you the login information for the website. When you get there, you can go to content, and you can that gives you a list of all of the pages on the website.
Mm-hmm.
And we can just add content, and you're going to want to create a basic page. I can actually create one for you here. Call it like, I don't know. We'll just call it VLF for now. And we can change that later. And then this is a test. And then we hit save. And there's the basic page VLF has been created. And you can hit edit. And if you want to upload anything, you click this little IMCE box right here. And that gets you to the directory structure of the server. Yeah. And probably click pages. You see we have one for ground magnetometer, one for grape. I can create a new directory here, and we can call it VLF. And I can hit add.
Okay.
So now you have a VLF directory. And so then you can, whatever you do for these pages, you can create subdirectories. You can just put stuff in here. You can put your images, anything that goes in there, and then you can link it back to your main page. And all of this is running, this is Drupal 7. So in case you need to like Google stuff or figure things out.
It almost looks like it's almost like a forum post entry where you could write in, you know, like a article or something that you post on a forum, but it'll post to the website.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has the normal buttons that everyone's used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. It's just slightly more finicky. But it is a WYSIWYG editor. It's just a little, there's a few more tricks to get used to. But I think you'll pick up really fast. I recommend using the headings.
Mm-hmm.
I also recommend you can look at other pages and just, do your best to not screw anything up. You can hit edit and you can see how things are implemented in other pages. And actually this particular one, let's see. Yeah, I actually want to change that banner. But if you use the center block image responsive, then when you classes for images, that image responsive will make things automatically scale onto onto like mobile devices.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So this is running yeah. For some reason this one it squishes. I think the problem is when you do the image responsive, I think if you actually specify a height and a width, I think that screws things up. So if I don't specify that, now I think there it keeps it in, it keeps the aspect ratio correct. So
okay.
This is running what's called a bootstrap theme. Yeah, bootstrap. So this bootstrap is a website theme that's actually developed by Twitter, and they make it available to the community. I forget what version it is. It's probably version 4 or something. But then these are all of the elements you can use.
Oh, right.
So div, class, alert, primary, role, alert, that gives you this blue one. And so you can get like different colors. So if you want to put in different web elements you can pull it right off of this getbootstrap.com website. And that's how, like, if you go to, like if you go to last year's Hamsa Workshop, yeah, see this big blue button here?
Yeah.
That they call this a well. So that came from that bootstrap. I hit source.
Oh, you just import that code.
Yep. You just import that
yeah.
code and you put it in. So that's why, like, if you see how something, if you like how something's done on another page on the Hamsa website, you can go in there. You can, take a look at the source, see what was done, check out what the, what the style sheet classes are, stuff like that. There are some quirks, like for instance, if I make things full screen like this, for whatever reason, these buttons don't work anymore. So I have to make it unfull screen and then the buttons work. So they're just quirks that you have to kind of get used to. And the website is backed up regularly in multiple locations. So if something totally comes crashing down, I should be able to recover.
Okay. Well, do I only have editability for
no. No, you I don't. One thing I never got quite set up was the whole, like, properly dealing with the security for different people, so you can edit everything.
Okay, well then I will stay off the edits on the other websites as much as I have to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just try to build, something basic, nothing too crazy, and then I'll just improve it from there.
Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time, but I think it'll come out really nicely.
Yeah.
And it's nice how it's starting to build up, and we're starting to get. We will have to revise some of the website soon. So I actually, so NASA, I don't know if you've noticed, we now have a little additional logo on the bottom of the website now. It says NASA Partner. That's because some of our projects are officially funded by NASA. And NASA has a citizen science website, NASA Citizen Science. And if you go here, you see all of these different citizen science projects. And so I want to get Hamsa up here as well, which they will do. But one of the parts of getting your website listed here after you get funding is you have to go through a website review. And so they had a number of things they suggested making changes to our website. And Christina Collins and I will be meeting with them hopefully sometime this January and going through some of those things. But one of the interesting pieces of feedback we got was that the website is clearly attracts a very technical community, and we're doing a lot of good things, but it might be hard for new people to kind of know what to do and figure out how to get started. So we'll work on it.
Yeah,
that was always a problem we had. We always had that problem with the HPSDR website. As it accumulated more and more information, it became more and more complicated and daunting for the new people coming in, because it had, years of development and information on it. It's like, well, where do you start? There's, literally hundreds of pages to read, and you don't know where to start. And there was no beginner's guide or anything. So we got some negative feedback on that, but I don't think we ever. Dave's not still here, is he? We never really got a good resolution to that, I don't think.
Yeah, so I mean, something we'll have to consider. We might have to figure out, find a volunteer to be a communications person and try and take a critical eye to that sort of thing, or maybe it's the sort of thing where we eventually try and get funding for someone to be like a communications and outreach person, and
like a Hamsa for Dummies page to get started.
Yeah, something like that. Or I'm actually really proud of the group we formed, because we tend to attract people who have tremendous amounts of experience and very high levels of degrees, which is very neat.
Well, it is called scientific for a reason.
I know, but I mean, it would also be nice, like if we were able to say like be useful to high school students or something like that too. So or more general people, or like David Woodward, who comes on today, is like, I'm new and I'm trying to figure things out. It's like, okay, where do you start? And we
I
had,
mean, that's a good point. There's lots of different people that start out here, like high school students or college students or hams who just heard of us, or I mean, coming all from different backgrounds.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things NASA Citizen Science wants to do, is try and be accessible to these, to different levels. And like I from the AGU meeting and from talking with Joe, so Joe W7LUX, he raised the point that he was concerned that no one's looking at his grape data, and which is a very valid concern. And so we got some ideas when we went to the AGU meeting about how we might be able to split, have the data analyzed by many different volunteers in addition to students. And so I think we'll be working on that in the near future. And that might involve even setting up like a Zooniverse page. Because I don't know if you know, like astronomers have these websites where people can go on and, try and classify things as spiral galaxies or bar galaxies or, different types of galaxies. And they make that platform available to all citizen science projects. So we could do a similar thing with traveling ionospheric disturbances. We could show people grape data and be like, do you see a traveling ionospheric disturbance here? And, does it have certain characteristics? And that can help answer certain scientific questions. And while at the same time giving people who are new to, like, completely new, some sort of path they can get onto the project to be useful and learn something with a fairly low amount of fairly minimal amount of initial.
Like at some point you're going to have grape 2 kits available, right? And the idea is, if they want to participate, would buy their Raspberry Pi, spend their $100 on the board or whatever, and get on and start contributing, they can do that, right?
Yes. But what about even people who are, who just want to look at data? Or we need a way of, once all the stuff is collecting data, what do we do with all the data?
Yeah. And maybe that's going to be the bigger piece, is the people who want to look at the data. Once it seems like the data acquisition is going to become almost automatic. But then looking at the data, I mean, that's going to be up to the people. What do they want to get out of the data? They're going to be looking for specific things, probably, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So with this particular idea that we're looking at right now is, they think that there are particular parts of the world that are what are called either gravity wave or TID hotspots. So the basic question would be, if we have grape receivers set up all across the United States, are there some parts of the United States that see more traveling atmospheric disturbances than others? And how, and by how much? What time of day do they see them? We answer those sorts of questions. There's a number of other, having those answers can actually help us answer other deeper scientific questions. But from a very rudimentary standpoint, I think it's, even if you don't know atmospheric physics, I think most people on here could appreciate the question of saying, okay, in the United States, if I'm running a grape, where are there more traveling atmospheric disturbances and when do they happen less? And, even, and for the engineers on here, you can do fast Fourier transforms and figure out what the typical periodicities are of those things. And do certain regions see more of one particular periodicity than another? So things like that.
And then you'll be able to take the data that we've amassed and support or deny your hypothesis that you come up with. You prove it or disprove it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was part of what, do you remember Larissa Goncharenko? She's a scientist up at MIT Haystack Observatory. She was a invited speaker at the Hamsa Workshop at Case Western.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so she's the one that we were having this discussion with, and she was the one that was talking about the gravity wave hotspots, and she saw our talk on Veronica's talk on the GREEP data, and she's like, yeah, where is this what's happening in the other parts of the United States? So that's where I think this is a question that, you know, we could, you know, crowdsource and have people look at all this data, and I think we could get some really interesting things out of it.
And that that's kind of the idea behind Paul's network of receivers, is that he also, you know, he has people like me and other people who set up these VLF receivers, and he's able to compile all this data about different things based on the different locations. So it'd be great to have the VLF stuff kind of support the HF stuff.
Yes.
So I really like to have it as an additional board to the HF module, so that the ham size stations, weather stations, can be expanded to include both VLF and HF, or HF or VLF, whichever the user wants.
Yep. It's a whole modular approach. I think it's really great. And it's nice, Jonathan. I think it's nice right now, even that, like, you know, we have 3 instruments now up and running, all driven by Raspberry Pis. So the GREEP, the magnetometer, and now the VLF receiver, like, they're all driven by Raspberry Pis. So like anyone can operate them independently, but eventually it looks like there might be a relatively straightforward path for convergence. So
yeah, I mean, VLF-RX tools can run on this very same system that runs the magnetometer system, or the
well, and the low-cost space weather station, I mean, it's Raspberry Pi based too, so it's yet another one in the group of.
Yep.
And also, the VLF-RX tools can probably be used as an alternative to the software that's already on the GREEP. It'll record from the sound card, and it'll timestamp data, and you could generate plots and all different sorts of things. So I mean, that's also another option too.
Yeah, that is definitely an option.
I mean, that's something that maybe I should experiment with in the future. You know,
that would be, yeah, that would be a good way to do that. Like if you were to experiment with it and kind of see what works well. Because right now the approach is we're using the digital RF. Well, actually right now the GREEP 1 is using FL Digi, but the problem with that is it's just saving a very, very simple data set. It's just reducing the spectrum down to a single line, and it's really not good scientifically. And then we do have Bill Engelke's version of the operating system, which uses GNU Radio, and that does save full spectrum data, but we have very few systems running that right now. I've been meaning to get it up and running, but I just haven't had a chance yet.
Well, what goes into the sound card? What's the bandwidth? Is it like 3 kilohertz?
I can't remember.
Okay.
But I think what John is planning on doing for GREEP version 4 is he's planning on mixing all 4 channels into one audio channel.
Yeah.
So.
And I wonder, I mean, he could probably use VLF-RX tools too. As a because one of the things that I like about it is almost all the processing programs are all command line based.
That is nice.
And they don't use a GUI, and you can configure them with the script, and there are GUI tools that you could use to kind of interact with the, with the data. So that might be an
option.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Time for bed.
Yeah, I think it's time to go.
Yeah.
This has been great, guys.
All right. Well, are we serious? We think we could actually launch the magnetometer at the Hamsa Workshop in Huntsville? I mean, if that's the case, we need to start thinking about. I mean, Scotty's working on putting together an order for these things potentially and how to get them in the store. We need to know if the manufacturer is available to build them, and we can get the blanks in, we can get the parts in, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I can get that going. That's it's all pre-greased, so to speak.
Right. Since you're not revving the board, which is ideal. I mean,
right. So I mean, I have quotes for everything. I have to refresh them. They're a little old, but nothing's changed except that I do have to make sure that I can get all of the parts. But the parts are not very esoteric.
Yeah, they're not real high tech, right? Right.
So I mean, capacitors are capacitors. You might end up having to buy different brands, but you know, you can still buy the same ones. So we'll take a look at that.
Maybe we can get an update next Monday. Then we'll see.
Yep. Yep.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year's.
Big weekend.
Merry Christmas, all.
See you next
Merry
week.
Christmas. 73.
Can you leave this open for a little while, Nathaniel, for us?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop the recording now.